Welcome to another Interview Wednesday here on Turnbuckle Trash Talk. I am the officiant, Kent, and joining me this week is Wheezy T. Now, this may be a name you haven't heard of yet, but you will definitely hear of in the near future. Wheezy, thank you so much for joining me first off.
Thanks a lot, Ken. I appreciate you having me on the show.
So you haven't been in the business a very long time, under a year since your first match, but you've already had matches with the likes of Jay Lethal, which some people spend their entire life or entire career hoping to get, and you've already done it in your first year. But I want to take it back to the very, very beginning. When did you first discover wrestling at all? When was the first match you saw, the first anything?
Oh, wow. Oh, man, you're taking it real back here, Kent. Well, first off, I got to say, the first time I actually discovered wrestling, I instantly fell in love with it. I'd say, and I got to give my sister like a huge shout out for it, my sister Tamika. She showed me an episode of WCW Monday Nitro maybe like 2 years after I was born. I mean, I couldn't remember to understand it like that. But, you know, watching it just it entertained me as a child. And then
there were seeds already being planted before you'd even start to remember. Like, you were getting that. It was the same with me. Anyway,
for sure. But like, I would remember like watching and growing up with it, and then like the invasion of WWE and WCW started to happen. And those were my earliest years of watching wrestling. And like I said, the first moment I knew to understand it, I instantly fell in love with it, and it was something that I knew I wanted to do from the very beginning. When I actually came to understand more of the business and like what the actual like real meaning behind it is, it made me fall in love with it even more. You know what I mean? Because it's just you get something good out of it. You know what I mean? Maybe like the first match that piqued my interest was probably about like TLC 2000.
Okay.
2001, one of those two. Just seeing Jeff Hardy like soar off of a ladder just had me like my literally breathless. No pun intended.
No, I absolutely agree. That first triangle ladder match, which I call the first ever TLC because it did have tables, ladders, and chairs.
It certainly did.
But they didn't officially count it as the first TLC. I remember seeing that match, WrestleMania 2000, and it was the match of the night.
Oh, yeah.
Easily, hands down.
For
but
sure.
It also made me just fall in love with tag team wrestling, fall in love with a new level of wrestling in its entirety. I'd always been a fan, but that was like a pinnacle moment of like, holy crap.
Oh, yeah, I 100%
incredible.
agree. It's for the time, it was something very new and very shocking. Like, it was a oh my God moment. And, you know, back in wrestling, those were maybe like determined and under smaller, you know what I mean, like smaller events. But like to risk your body and put your body at such a level, it's just
they made a mark. They made they took things to a new level. They made their names known overnight almost with that match.
For sure.
You know, they'd all been kind of, I mean, other than like Edge, most of them were pretty much unknown in an almost empty tag team circuit, you know, where the tag team division was not getting noticed. And wrestling goes through those periods where tags, you know, are up and down.
100%.
So they brought tag team wrestling back. So were there particular stars that you like took a shine to, that inspired you, that like you found yourself watching more than others?
Oh yeah, I knew from since I watched, you know, WrestleMania 2000 that, you know, I never really had a favorite, but my favorite team was the Hardy Boys and Jeff especially. Like Jeff just was my inspiration behind becoming a wrestler. He's just so creative. He's such a creative person, and everything he does, you know, whether it be inside the ring, outside the ring, you know, and putting his body on the line, he's a risk taker. And, you know, in life you do got to take, you know, a few risks to kind of succeed, and that message just plays in my head over and over. So I'd say Jeff Hardy would probably be my number one.
Sure.
If I had to pick like a number two, you know, of course The Rock. The Rock was always instrumental in his promos and the way he delivers it. You know, I don't have to say anything.
Well, and he was an Attitude Era staple.
Yeah,
Him and Austin,
for sure.
It was like you couldn't pick a top star because they both brought different things but equally great things.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
And there's a reason he's the like highest paid actor in Hollywood now.
Oh yeah, it's insane. It is insane.
So was there a particular moment or match or event that made you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do? Like, I need to actually pursue a life of this. I'm going to go beyond being a fan. Did that happen at a particular moment, or did you kind of always feel like you were?
I mainly felt like it from the beginning. I had a I knew that this was something I definitely wanted to be involved in. I mean, of course, you know, you think about your regular career choices and stuff like that, but wrestling was always like at the forefront of real career choices for me. Like for me, it was either become a wrestler or don't do anything. You know what I mean? So,
Wrestling or bust.
Wrestling or bust. You know, like that's how much I'm into it. But I'd say like I watched. I had the old WWE Championship DVD, and it was like a really beautiful disc set, and it had like all like the history of the WWE Championship. I know it's probably on WWE Shop somewhere or something like that, whatever.
Or the network.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now, yeah. But I watched, and this might be a little insane, but I watched Cactus Jack versus Triple H. Royal Rumble 2000.
I saw that when it was on.
Right? Oh my God, dude. Maybe at the time I didn't really like understand it, but watching this DVD and like, I mean, more than just the bloodshed, but the psychology behind it. Like before Triple H gives him like this devastating chair shot, you know, Cactus Jack is just staring at him like, hit me or you gonna, like stuff like that, man. It just makes my skin crawl just talking about it. Like from there on, you know, I've always had like a secret passion for like hardcore wrestling, if that made like that too.
ECW.
Like, yeah, like a very secret passion. Like when I used to play like SmackDown versus Raw and all that stuff, like I'd name my character the Hardcore Icon. I swear, like.
So, a lot of the guys I've talked to said there was never really a clear-cut path into getting into training. Like that, it's kind of this thing that's still a mystery, and you have to kind of like really want to do it to actually find it. What was that experience like for you trying to pursue getting into training? Like, what were those steps like?
Well, to be completely honest, it really all just came out of nowhere. I was doing like some research every now and then because, you know, I was maybe not in the best spot, but I always had wrestling on my mind. So one day, you know, I get out of work and I'm just like, you know, hey, let me do a little bit more research. Let me see what kind of schools are around here. You know what I mean? Well, for the record, I always say that if you don't absolutely love pro wrestling, then you probably shouldn't get into the business as a wrestler, you know, because it's just, I don't know. From watching to like wrestling, you kind of just make that transition and you understand. But for me, I was just like, you know, I really need to make this happen, you know what I mean? So out of nowhere, I just found, you know, Jay Lethal's school, Tampa Bay Pro, and the Lethal Academy. And one day, you know, I was like, you know, let me see what will happen if I, you know, send them a message and find out some more information.
Sure.
Send them some messages, found out some more information, and, you know, they gave me a call back. You know what I mean? And when they gave me the call back, you know, they were like, oh, hey, we got a date, come check it out, see if you like it, if you don't, which helped me immensely. You know, I got to meet Jay and David and Mercury before I even started class, which, you know, helped me made my decision a lot better. But at the time, I wasn't even financially ready to get into wrestling or to start training, you know what I mean? But one thing that helped out was how wonderful they were with, like, you know, payments and all that wonderful stuff. You know, they're very lenient.
That was a big part of me, is that when I joined Jay's school, was that I felt really welcomed into it and eased into it versus like some of these other horror stories you hear of training.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're going to take you in and punch you in the mouth as hard as you can, you know.
First 6 months, you don't even get into the ring.
Right,
you know?
Exactly. Like they really did make it an open and welcoming experience, and I think that helped people who would normally shy away from getting into this thing.
Correct.
Feel more comfortable getting into it.
I 100% agree.
What was the training process like for you?
So I would mainly, since I worked like a day job and stuff like that, we'd have practice from about like 6 to 9 or 6 to 8. Sometimes we'd go to 9 and sometimes we'd go to 10. About Mondays and Thursdays, we would train and we get in some cardio drills, get in the ring, start learning the basics, you know. And the best thing about it for me is that, you know, Jay just doesn't just sit there and teach. He comes in, he gets in the ring with you, and he shows you himself, and he'll bump for you and all this wonderful stuff. So it really helps with you know, training, you know what I mean?
He's a very hands-on teacher.
100%.
Unlike a lot of these other schools where it'll say like, oh, this is, you know, Seth Rollins' school. But Seth's never there.
Right,
He's going to have a backup trainer because he's obviously busy.
100%.
So it's really nice that Jay takes the time and makes the effort to be at almost every class and really give you that hands-on approach.
It's the greatest, man. I'm telling you. Like I always say it, the best thing about it is that he will get in the ring, bump himself out for you, and he will show you like how the correct way to go about wrestling is, and it's helped me the most so far, I believe.
Well, and there's something to be said too if the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion takes this so seriously that he's willing to take the risk himself in the teaching process. That means he wants it to be done right.
100%, and he doesn't have to. You know, he bumps himself out, I'm sure, a lot more than he needs to, but the fact that he's willing to go above and beyond and still put his body a little bit on the line during training and stuff like that, it goes a long way for us, you know, training. You know, if my coach is willing to get in the ring and do it with me, man, that's the best feeling in the world, you know.
Did you have any kind of athletic background before you went into wrestling, like football, basketball?
I did about 2 years of amateur wrestling in high school.
Oh, great, okay.
I mean, that really stemmed from, you know, loving pro wrestling, so that I'm just watching pro wrestling. I knew they were a little bit different, you know, pro wrestling and amateur wrestling and stuff like that, but, you know, I still wanted to give my shot at it, and I did it for 2 years, so which kind of helps. It kind of helps
it sets
a lot.
a base. I mean, a lot.
Oh, for sure.
There is a transition, obviously, and there are things you have to unlearn and relearn.
Yeah.
But I think just having the knowledge of, like, grappling as a concept.
Yeah,
you know, and stuff like
it
that.
helps shooting and sprawling and all that wonderful stuff, man. It comes a long way when you already know how to do it, you know what I mean? It helps a lot.
What was the most difficult part of training for you? What was the thing that you thought, this was the hardest thing to learn, or this is the hardest thing I'm still trying to learn?
I think the hardest thing about it is getting used to the way your body moves. You know, does that make sense? And everybody who watches will know that when I first started training, they used to call me Sparkle Fingers, because every time I'd get into the ring, I'd do this little number with my fingers here. Yeah, you know, like, and it's just, you know, getting used to, you know, moving your body all at once and kind of giving it muscle memory to wrestling and stuff like that. I think that was the hardest thing for me, you know, because, you know, sometimes I'd bounce off the ropes, go to take a hip toss and completely miss, you know, stuff like that. But once you realize that, you know, you are in complete control of your body at all times, I think it just makes it easier for you once you get comfortable doing so.
Well, and I kind of bring this point up in every interview a little bit. We have to teach our bodies to go against our base instincts.
100%.
Like, we have to run towards someone knowing we're going to get hit.
Oh, yeah.
Versus our bodies saying, why in the world are you doing that? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, we have to learn how to fall on purpose, which the body does not want to do.
For sure.
So I think it kind of incorporates some of that as well with what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
What came easiest? What did you think, this is going to be difficult? And then you were like, wow, that was a breeze. Like, this, no problem.
Well, okay, this might sound a little weird, but back when I was younger, I have a bunch of nephews, and we're all about the same age. We used to, like, watch wrestling and beat each other up. And, you know, my nephews they'd be like, hey, are you actually hurt? And I'm like, I'd get up and I'm like, no, I'm completely okay just from selling. So, you know, like, I didn't know what selling was at that time, but since, you know, I used to just mess around and do it all the time, you know what I mean? I think selling just came the easiest for me, you know what I mean? Because I'm really good at just, you know, realizing what would hurt and what the exact reaction to it would
Well, and
be.
then you also have to turn that reaction up to 11.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that, like, everybody sees, oh my God, that hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is. And actually, I do want to compliment you. You are one of the better sellers, having just come out of school.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's a big deal.
Thanks so much.
Now, a lot of people might not know this and might be surprised to hear this, but you actually have asthma. It's not just a gimmick. That's a real deal.
It totally is. I do, yes.
How has that challenged you, and how have you overcome it through this process? Because, I mean, getting blown up is a daily thing for a lot of people. How do you work with that?
Well, ever since I was younger, it has definitely been a factor in my life, even to the point now that, you know, that I'm talking to you guys. I still wake up very much so in the middle of the night with asthma, and I have to, you know, hit my inhaler. If I don't have that, I have to go on the breathing treatment, you know, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, trying to keep up with it is, you know, preventives and, you know, stuff like that. You know, it goes a long way. I'm not the greatest, though, at keeping up with my with my preventives, but, you know, cardio and working out and all that wonderful stuff, it really helps and goes a long way to kind of keep you from getting to that level. Also, having an extra inhaler on hand also helps out, if you know what I mean.
Not the gimmick inhaler,
no, not
but an actual
but a
inhaler.
real inhaler, you know. And it's always good to keep a backup one when you for real have asthma, because you never know. But it hasn't been that much of a factor in wrestling. But I will tell you this: Jay Lethal taught me European uppercuts, gave me like 4 or 5 of them, and I had to hit my inhaler instantly. So that'd be the only time.
We talked about this the other day, but I think it's so clever how you were able to incorporate this as a primary part of your character and really take ownership of it. I've never seen anything like it done on the scene before in this fashion. What was the motivation behind that? Why did you decide, hey, I'm going to take this real life thing I've got and turn it into a character? Like, what was the process of that?
So it really came about halfway through my training, because I did have a different gimmick in mind, and this gimmick was like, think of like Sasuke from Naruto type of thing. That was going to be my original gimmick, but
this is way better.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that right now.
No, I agree
better.
100%. But like, I came in to school one time, and Jay had brought the genius Lanny Poffo, and he was doing like interviews with us, and we were cutting promos for him, like while he's being our mean gene, you know. And before I go up, you know, I'm ready to cut this promo in my Sasuke-esque character, till, you know, somebody's like, I think it was Merc, and I was like, what if I went in front of the camera and like cut it with asthma or something like that, and had to hit my inhaler. And my coach David Mercury, he actually is the reason why I went through with it, because he pretty much like put it over. He was like, you think of all the stuff you can do with that. And then, you know, I thought of all the stuff that I could really do with that. And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to go in front of Lanny Poffo, and I'm going to cut this promo as Wheezy T. And that name came up off the fly. I just thought about it. And I really give it to Merc for helping me out with the character. It means a lot. But also Lanny Poffo, because, you know, he also kind of put it over in his own sense with the Mean Gene promo. So for them, it means a lot.
Well, and as a heel, you've got a built-in prop or a built-in weapon, and what heartless referee is going to take away the guy with asthma's inhaler?
It works itself out, right? Let me tell you.
On so many levels. What do you remember about your first match? Now, I know it wasn't that long ago, so I expect you to have vivid memories of it.
Oh, for sure.
But who did you face? What was that experience like? You know, a lot of people say their first match is their worst, aside from Kiko Harris, who said his first match was the best. What was that experience like for you? Just tell me all about it.
Well, let me tell you, I came into my first match. My first match was actually for Alex Payne tribute show. A Fallen Brother.
That was your first match?
That was my first ever match. And you know what? The pressure was up, because my first match was actually against both of my trainers, Jay Lethal and David Mercury. So let me tell you, the pressure was on, and I was probably sweating way more bullets than I should have. But let me tell you, when you're in the hands of two absolute geniuses and hardest workers in the game like Jay Lethal and David Mercury.
Well, and they've studied you and know you so well, so they know how to perform to your strengths 100%. As well as incorporate their own.
I agree. No, that's fine. I agree 100%. But let me tell you, me and my partner Logan Cruz, we both were like sweating bullets the whole time. And when they decided to choose us out of this class, it was a real huge honor, let me tell you. But
well, I can only name like people on one hand who have had the opportunity to train with Jay and then wrestle with Jay.
Absolute honor.
That is, and as a first match too. Jeez.
Absolute honor, and let me tell you, it's something that I will never ever forget, you know, and it astounds people to this day when I tell them, you know, my first match was with Jay Lethal and David Mercury, and they took great care of us, man. I'm telling you, they are such geniuses. And
I might have to add you to that small list of people who actually had a good first experience, because I'm talking to people who say they pooped their pants, or
people
walked in while they were changing in someone's bathroom at a birthday party, like all kinds of horror stories. But you're like, yeah, I got to wrestle Jay Lethal.
It is a bit of a bragging
No big
moment,
deal.
but it's also very humbling too at the same time. You know, it's just like, it could have been anybody, but he chose us, and it means a whole lot. So thank you.
That's also a testament to your work you put in at the school, because that's a decision. That's a process. You're as I like to say, green as goose shit. And they're like, well, I'm still going to put my body and my life and my health in the hands of these two new kids. And clearly it worked out really well. I remember that match being very good.
Thank you. It really means a lot. Thank you.
What about going outside beyond that? Like, you've already been starting to hit the road and show up to shows and get spots. What's that experience been like for you? I mean,
Oh man, it's been absolutely wonderful. Let me tell you, all these wonderful companies, in Florida, they've been so welcoming, and a lot of them like are really happy with the character. You know what I mean? Which goes a long way, and it really means a lot. Every company I've worked for thus far in Florida has always been very welcoming, which is the best thing you can say. You know what I mean? All the locker rooms have been very welcoming. And when they see what my gimmick is, they either crack a smile or they laugh, which is the main thing. You want the fans to laugh and smile. And if you're getting workers, if you're making them, like it and stuff like that, it probably goes a long way too. But the companies, they're so welcoming, and it means a whole lot, I gotta say.
So anybody who's watched this show knows I end it with 2 questions, but as of this interview, I'm actually adding a 3rd question, and you're going to be the first person ever to answer it.
Lay it on me, baby.
What was the most surprising thing you discovered about wrestling? Like you thought about it one way the whole time and came out to realize it was completely different than you expected.
Ooh.
What was that moment?
Okay, so back when
I'll find a better way to word it. But
No, that's fine. I think I know what you mean. But back when I was maybe like, a few years ago, I was like 15 or 16, like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I was like 15, 16. The best thing I would love to do is go on YouTube and watch like old shoot videos or old information videos about WWE in their past and a bunch of stuff like that. And, a lot of it was, I think the one thing that I actually researched upon and did, a lot of research, like I just said, would have to be, the sex offender trials back in WWE, you know what I mean? Like with, Pat Patterson and all this wonderful stuff about them, Ring Boy scandal and all of that, just how could a company that provides so many smiles on the faces of people worldwide, like have an internal problem like that and it not be like, addressed until after it's already been a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's
so the illusion being shattered of the real world behind the camera,
yeah,
like the dark and dirty nature of the business.
It just exploded my mind when I figured it out, just how dark things can be behind the scenes. And that's not with just wrestling, that's everywhere you go, you know what I mean? But when I found out that, wrestling wasn't the most gracious and in for like
upstanding business.
Yeah, it's just a mind blower to you, especially to somebody who wants to be in this business.
Well,
so
these
very
people
bad.
are built up to be our heroes. They're supposed to be superheroes. They're our Captain America and our, Batman and everything like that. And then you get to see, no, they're real people.
Yeah.
And they have real problems. And sometimes they're not good people at
not
all.
at all.
It's very mind-bending.
It really, really kind of shatters your superhero fantasy that you have regarding these wrestlers that are larger than life,
Yeah.
It really does, I got to tell you.
So now on to the normal questions.
What you got?
If you could give advice to someone who is interested in getting to wrestling at all, especially since you're new, this is a good perspective to take because you really do have a fresh idea of like, this is the reality of training in the business. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in getting into this?
Well, for me, it's always been, no matter what your situation is, if this is something you want to do, don't ever stop and don't ever give up. Let me tell you, because there are people out there who are willing to help you, such as the Lethal Academy, who is very, very well with like pricing and the training is grade 1. Just don't ever give up. Don't ever stop believing, because let me tell you, as soon as you stop believing, that's when the dream dies. And if this is something that you want to make your career, don't ever stop. Work hard and go for it. And no matter what your situation is, continue to push for it. I'm telling you, because my mom always said, from ashes to riches, and I completely like put that in the back of my head every time I do a show, from ashes to riches.
If you could change anything in wrestling, anything backstage, in front, audience perception, anything, if you could change one thing about the business, what would it be?
Probably the fact that, sometimes, wrestling companies, they don't work together to like, make wrestling big enough for everybody. You know what I mean? Like the one thing that I love about wrestling, especially with like, people doing like co-shows like the G1 Supercard, is that companies, they get together and they make wrestling for everybody.
So you mean more collaboration between companies to not like book shows on the same day that are like 10 miles apart. Or
yeah, and I think the collaborations between companies would really we're promoting you, you're promoting us, we're getting some never before seen matches, the fans are going to go home happy because they're seeing things they've never seen before. I love the collaborations, like the G1 Supercard, and then they have MLW with AAA, and all this wonderful stuff is just make wrestling a huge entity back from what it was back in the 90s and the 80s and stuff like that. I believe right now wrestling has never been better. I just would like to see maybe a little bit more collaboration and stuff like that. I just think it would go a long way.
On an independent level, for sure, I feel like it's one thing when you got two multi-billion-dollar companies going to war. It's another thing when both companies are surviving show to show and could collapse at any moment. That's where I think they need to work together to prop each other up and make wrestling seen in a positive light.
Oh, of course.
So I agree with you there.
Thank you.
Now I want to give you a moment to put yourself over, promote anything you want to promote, social media, promotions, anything. Go.
Well, thank you. For one, please go like the Lethal Academy page on Facebook. They are a wonderful training facility, and I'm telling you, you won't find any better coaches other than Jay Lethal and David Mercury. They will teach you the right way. They will teach you to be safe, and they will teach you to always follow your dream and the ins and outs of pro wrestling. If you want to, please go like my Instagram at Wheezy Wrasslin. That's with a southern drawl, WRASSLIN. And my Facebook, Wheezy T. That's simple enough. You'll be able to find me. Give me a like and check me out. I'll be all around Florida. Thank you.
Well, Wheezy, thank you so much for joining me. It's
Thank
great
you,
having
Ken.
you on the show. We're definitely going to have a part 2 a few months from now to see you further along in your, in your process. But so far, you've done exciting things. And guys, check out Wheezy T. You will not regret it. He's an up-and-comer. You'll definitely be having him as a household name within the next couple of years. I guarantee you of that. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And we'll see you on the next Interview Wednesday here on Turnbuckle Trash Talk.